It's 9 o'clock in the evening and the sun is just starting to go down now. I'm looking out my big picture window. It is absolutely beautiful outside, but 9 p.m. and it snowed this morning. Spring is coming in late. Lots of different things going on that we are all unfamiliar with, aren't we? We're just kind of moving along and we're experiencing things that are not the norm, right? And I think that's the case for everybody. Why? Because that's change, isn't it? And we are all in a moment of change, a moment where we can sit on our haunches and not do anything, or we can apply ourselves and make some movement for ourselves and set ourselves up in a way that even if things do make such a significant change that it just turns everything upside down, that we would be okay, that we would adapt and conquer, we would ride those waves, we would come out on the top of the pile, even not knowing what that pile looks like, because we're always making movement. We're always learning, growing, right? Paying attention to the change in the world, paying attention to those little serendipities, right? Those little nudges that say whatever that they're saying to us, but we're paying attention. But we can be second guessing ourselves in that. We can be making bad decisions. This word discernment comes up for me constantly because in the content that I take in, and I have been making lists of content creators, thought leaders out there, maybe not even thought leaders, maybe people that have just entertained me when my system was too wired, when I have taken in so much of the heavy duty that I've become a little bit punch drunk in what I take in. And when that happens, we're going to just stop for a second. We're going to send some good cheer. Let them get to their destination. Let it be a false alarm that they can just turn around and go right back to the station because it is a lovely evening. It's not very warm out there, but it is a lovely evening out there. Blue skies, the sun's just starting to come down now, right? This time last year, we were all sitting out in our lawn chairs, right? I probably would have been out for a walk or taken a bike ride or something. Little bit different this year, right? But it's not making myself go into a frenzy to make it so that I'm just all grumbling and complaining. But it's not that I am doing that because it may sound like sometimes that I'm grumbling because of the weather, right? But it really isn't, right? It is just in that paying attention, right? Taking note, looking at those differences, looking at the changes in the world when we were looking at the world last year and going for walks and bumping into people and having these conversations about global warming. We have not had one conversation about global warming. Nobody in Manitoba is talking about global warming this year at the very least. But it's still early, isn't it? It's still early. Hello, Eugene. Thank you so much for popping in and keeping me company for a few minutes. I appreciate that. I hope everything is going good for you, right? We were just talking about change, right? And not just slight change, but noticeable change, whether it's in our family life, our work life, our community, right? Maybe like me in my environment. And that's what I was saying. It's not to make it so that we are all hairy scary in it, like we're all stressed out and making it us miserable, but taking note, paying attention, making those adjustments in life, right? Because that's what evolution is. It's about being prepared, it's about adapting and conquering and riding the waves. And to get back to what I was going to say, I had made a list today of some of those content creators that have really contributed to my little bit of movement that I have made in my life, right? I take a lot of my lessons online. I like to pay attention to people who have got something to say, something to contribute. And it's not like I take everything as 100% truth, that this is compounded, because I understand that each one of us is dynamic. Each one of us is a unique in our own right. And what's pertinent to me is not going to be pertinent to somebody else, right? I got that lesson day before yesterday when I went to visit my nephew. He lives upstairs. He's woke up to some of his own ideas. He's got a very, very, very high IQ, right? And he has these conversations with me, and I swear I need a dictionary to be able to understand his language. And I don't beat myself up in that, right? I'm actually quite proud of him in where he's going and what he's doing for his life when it comes to actually making movement in his life. I wish it was more on a personal aspect where he was, looking at wives and having babies and stuff, but that's his life. He gets to create his life however he wants to. And I get no say in that. In fact, I'm just his aunt, right? But even his mom has no say in that. He's a growing man and he gets to make his own decisions. He's flown the coop and he's adapting and he's conquering and he's making good decisions for himself. And like I said, I'm very proud of him, but it is difficult to sit there, and because what he's doing, he's not mirroring my growth. He's not, right, because I feel a little bit not insignificant, but I feel that I'm not in that stage of development that he's at. But I'm not supposed to feel that way because he can't do what I do, right? He can't delve in and understand emotions and understand different personalities, and he doesn't have that capability to interact with other people who are different from him than him. His friends are all in the same field as he is. They're all smarty pants, right? All high IQs, all working in tech and AI creation. And I'm in creation too, but in that creation of understanding emotions. And also, right, like I said, I wish he had added into his own personal life, like looking at the future of having a wife and having babies, but we get no say in that. But for myself, I am looking at my personal life, understanding that, what I do in making some movement for myself is content and topics that I want to share with the world, that I want to help other people where I got myself stuck in my own life. There are so many people out there, right? So many souls out there who have not made that movement, that that applying of time and effort and understanding in understanding where I got things right and where I got things wrong, and to be able to resolve and untangle those wires so that I can specifically smile and enjoy my life. Yes, I could apply myself more. I could go deeper, right? I would never want to be so deep into it that, right, that I become such a smarty pants that I can't be able to interact and connect with people who are different than me, because I love connecting with people, right? I don't want to be an introvert, even though I do find at times out of necessity, because I am applying myself in my lessons. I also understand that I'm a unique myself, and as much as I would love to connect with others, right? In my small community, I'm not just unique. I am very unique in comparison to the people that I have been surrounding myself with. But it doesn't mean that given the opportunity, I can't, because I believe I am, just as much as my nephew is expert and a brainiac in what he does. I think in my own way, I am that unique, that treasure, that gift, not just to myself, but to others out there, just as much as he is a gift to people who are on equal footing in their interests as comparable to his interests. Do you get what I mean? So when when he's mirroring at me, he's mirroring his own likeness, which is totally different than mine. It takes all kinds to make the world, right? And I picked my interest. I picked what I thought that I could contribute, right? That I could contribute, that I would find interesting in applying myself and in applying myself that reward. I didn't know it at the time, right? That I would be going in there and I would actually be doing this all for myself. I actually went in and said, oh, in my experiences, I'll be able to contribute to others, not realizing it was my own wires that needed to be untangled before I could even think of helping others untangle their wires. And that makes me a unique. That makes me in standing with my nephew. right? So there is no need for me to feel bad because he's using jargon that I don't understand because I'm not even interested in what he's doing. And he has no interest in what I'm doing. But that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy each other's company and he can show me a little bit of what he does. He actually created a website for me, and I'd been working on mine for like a week, and it was so frustrating. I didn't even want to work on it, and yet he did it in that tech that he's so brainiac in, and he did it in 13 minutes. An amazing website, right? He put it together. It blew my mind. But at the same time, I have to say, in that conversation that me and him were having, that I was able to connect with him in a way that maybe he never took into consideration before. That maybe I could have shined in his life a little bit that would make him contemplate. And I do think that he contemplated a little bit about, how much work he's putting into what he's doing, but how important it is at the same time that he's enjoying what he's doing. And we had that conversation, right? Like, I said, do you love what you're doing? Are you having fun what you're doing? Right? And is this your life's journey? But he's dabbling in all kinds of things because he's a dabbler. He's an experimenter, right? He's an experiencer, and he's learning in the process of putting one foot in front of another. So he doesn't have a destination in mind. He's not goal setting. He's working in a field that he's good at because he put one foot in front of another, and because he has a curious mind, he's creating things because he's curious about it, but nothing really is sticking, right? But that's the idea about change, right? We never know where that destination is going to lead you. I didn't know that I was coming into a field. I just thought, oh my goodness, I have experiences in these topics and in these understandings. I can help other people in that, right? And then apply myself and sit into conversations and then recognizing that I had a lot of wires, a lot of understandings that weren't quite right, right? That there was a lot of course correction that needed to be done. And in untangling the wires, I got to understand a little bit better. My goal was still there, but my curious mind also, right, got caught, and I delved in, and it was fascinating, right? It was fascinating because of the change that came into my life that opened up my eyes to possibilities that were only kind of a little tidbit 5, 6, 10 years ago. They were just right, but it's just a matter of putting one foot in front of another, right? And not knowing where you're going, but enjoying the moment, enjoying that process. And I hear it all the time, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. But it's so 100% true, right? Because when I stepped into this and thinking, oh, I could do that, my experiences in my life, right? I get it. I didn't get it at all. It took a lot of sitting in on conversation, a lot of different perspectives, because not one person directly had every single perspective right, right? Everybody had a part of that puzzle, but nobody had the whole of the puzzle. And I thought I had the whole of the puzzle when I decided this is what I'm going to shoot for, right? I'm going to be a life coach, not even understanding that I did not have my own life down packed in its understanding. It had to come totally unraveled, right? And then slowly built up in sitting in different perspectives, different lessons, different aspects of psychology and emotions and religion and cultural ideas and political ideas. Well, I guess it does touch in different political ideas because we all have different perspectives, right? But the idea is to make that movement one step in front of another and watch that unraveling, watch how our mindsets change. And that's a good thing, right? And people do get punch drunk in that. Sometimes we go overboard. Sometimes we bite into things like pit bulls with a piece of raw meat in our mouth and we don't want to let go. And literally, we don't want to let go. We want to hold on to our ideas. We don't want to change because change is uncomfortable. It can be painful. It could be lonely because we can find that we're pulling away from communal understandings, right? Like our specific families, that we all grew up the same with the same ideas and the same perspectives, but then we change and we find that we're so different. And even though you think and you know that you can, right, sit in with different people, that you truly do believe it takes all kinds to make the world, but the people that you've surrounded yourself with haven't grown that way, right? They still cling on like a piece of raw meat in their mouth to old perspectives, to old ideas. And as much as you would like to help untangle those wires, and you can sometimes in being the examples, right, that it can be done, and in the natural change that comes about from doing the work, right, that they are interacting in a sense with somebody totally different, not the same person that we once were, right? And sometimes we'll find ourselves alone in that. And I smile. I smile at that because I understand that. I don't take it to heart anymore. I understand that, we don't want to step into change sometimes. Sometimes we like it right where we are. We're nice and comfy. Don't rock the boat. Don't make me look inferior. Don't make me feel that I have to put the same effort in as you do. And that can make people, right, not want to hang out with you. And I accept that, right? Because I understand now that each one of us gets to make our own choices for ourselves, right? And it doesn't matter if we are the mother or the father of that child. That child is going to grow up and we want them to be their own person. We don't want them to be the same book as what we grew up with, right? The same book that's just going to be passed on from one generation to the next. Yes, there are going to be good pages in that book, rip out those pages and staple them together and, right, keep those great ingredients that contribute to the goodness of our children and our children's children, right? Those are traditions that can be passed on in a way that will be made to be the example for the people that we surround ourselves with, right? That's how the world gets better and better and better because we see what works and what doesn't work. But we can't force somebody to hang out with us, right? We can't expect that everybody is, and we don't want everybody to be the same book. We don't want everybody to think exactly the same, right? We want everybody to be the expert, right? To create the life for themselves, the families for themselves that they want or don't want, right? And like I said, nobody gets to make those choices for anybody else. We can only make those choices for ourselves, right? And I made those choices, and I'm grateful that I didn't lose my interest in what I was doing. And I'm kind of grateful that I didn't know what I was in for when I first started. That's the idea in putting one foot in front of another, that each day is a new page, each day is a new opportunity, each step forward is a little bit added on, right? If we knew that journey was going to be 10 or 12 or 15 years long, we might not have applied ourselves. We might have given up in what we were doing because we would have thought, like, oh my goodness, it's just going to take way too long, or oh my goodness, right? I just this is too scary. If we had known in the beginning how long it would take, or how hard something would take, or how we were going to lose people that we care about in our lives because we're pursuing something that we are optimistic that is going to benefit us and benefit others down the road. But if we had known how long that road was, how long it was going to take, we would have given up, right? I know it would have been too much for me to even comprehend, right? I don't know if I would have given up, right? I'm not very much of a giver upper. I usually will carry on. I will pivot, I will change, but I will always keep moving forward, always one foot in front of another. And, right, baby steps. In baby steps, I got the job done, or I'm getting the job done, because I understand now it's an ever learning process. It never ends. That's what life is. That's what evolution is. It's just keep moving forward. Oh my goodness. I happened on to something really interesting today. I have some really interesting, and I wrote his name down here because I always forget his name, right? Anton Petrov. He's a biologist, I think. He's another brainiac that I love to sit in on. And I don't understand everything that he talks about, right? Because he's talking biology, he delves into different topics when it comes to space and, oh my goodness, science and medicine, and it's way out there sometimes. But he had a video that he posted today, and he was taught, we all know about the Neanderthals, right? But we always assumed that the Neanderthals, when they went extinct, right, that they were a different human being, and that they had interbred with humans, right? And they they finally became assimilated, right? A synthesis of us, because each one of us carries like 2%, 3% Neanderthal in our gene makeup. I don't want to sound like a smarty pants myself because I'm not. I'm just kind of trying to say it in a layman's terms, right? But he was saying that possibly that that humans bred with Neanderthals, right? Long after Neanderthals connected with archaic beings, right? And then came back into the human genome. So they're saying that possibly that that Homo Neanderthals actually had some Homo sapien genes in them, but they were always Neanderthals. They were another being that had been created through one of the other archaic beings far back. And they weren't actually created by getting together like the Denisovans and stuff, like getting together with humans. It was just something that came later on, right? So I thought that was super interesting if you wanted to go and check it out. I didn't explain it properly. I got it totally mixed up actually when I'm thinking about it now. But it was super interesting. His name's Anton Petrov. And yeah, but going back to this list of, different thought leaders and different content creators out there, because some of these content creators are in place for me, because I do get punch drunk in some of the content that I take in, some of the lessons, and right, some of these smarty pants that I sit in with, that sometimes I just get it up to here. So I have to calm the system down, right? And it's not all wiry and all I can't take anymore. It's just kind of like I'm just kind of stupid that I can't listen to one more brainiac, that I need something that's just going to entertain me for a little while so I can digest a little bit of what I take in. And some of those people that made it to my list are like right? My metal detecting channels, right? My bottle digging channels. And some of those topics that might not be considered um, in the categories of exploring the inside and the outside, like my RV. I've been just like today, I must have checked out like, oh, I don't know, half a dozen different RVs to see. And I found all the features that I want in an RV, but I can't find the RV that has all those features, right? Because it's, oh, that's a great feature, but it's in that RV. And then, oh, that's a good feature. And then but I want all these features, but I want it in one in one RV. So I've been checking them all all out, and so it's been kind of fun to, right, just have a day where I'm sitting here and I'm able to entertain myself, but at the same time I am, right, entertaining myself in a way, because these are my dreams, these are my goals, these are the things that I want for my future, right? I have the topics that I'm interesting, that I'm delving into, that I consider that work, not just on myself, but that work that I want to send out to the world. But I also want to create the best life for myself as I possibly can, because I understand, right, that I am human, and I want to interact in a way that makes it so that I can look back on my life and say, that was magnificent. That was so much fun, right? And I have to understand that can't ignore, right, those things that I am passionate about. And there are lots of things out there that I'm passionate about. I can't just be singular, because that for me, that would just be work. That would just be applying. And even though I love what I'm doing, I want to continue to love what I do. But I also know at this point, I am also a synthesis of many, because I have understood and untangled so many wires that I understand that it takes all kinds to make the world. And just like that RV, where I have this feature that I want that's in that RV, and that feature from that RV, how do I get it all into one RV? By exactly what I'm doing in doing that research and sitting in on those conversations and watching the reviews and picking and choosing for myself what I resonate with, what I think to be true for me. And in that thought leadership, I have about 50 people that I have been sitting in conversations. And those 50 people are absolutely amazing, and they are experts in their fields, right? But some of those fields, like Anton Petrov, who is a biologist, right? That's not in my field, but in some of those interests in the Neolithic age, in history, right? In Mother Nature, and in evolution, that it can be relevant. Some of those topics that he does talk about are relevant in the interests that I have, and in, I think, important in part of those puzzles, actually being pieces of those puzzles that I'm creating. I'm going to say puzzle, Cindy, being the puzzle, those pieces that would be missing in my puzzle if I didn't sit in on some of those topics and with some of those creators that are not, when you look at them, might not seem to be relevant, might not seem to be characters that I should be sitting in with, right? But I do. And they have added to my life. And because they've added to my life, and because they've consistently added to my life, I made that list today. I made that list today of all those characters who have added to my life in, well, I guess ever since I have been online, ever since that I've decided to apply myself in my interests and actually take into consideration the inside and the outside, right? My interests, my hobbies, and my give back, right? To myself, because I need to give back to myself, right? Because I've I've pushed so many parts of me away because I was a page in a book, right? Like the same pages in a book when I should have been writing my own book, if that makes any sense, in creating my own life, that I was just a chameleon, right? I was just the same as everybody that was in my vicinity, right? In my world, that I was just adapting to everybody else and not creating the best human being I could possibly be. And that's why I needed to untangle my wires. But nobody, not one person, had all those answers. Not one person had all those answers. But out of this group, I managed every single one of those puzzle pieces. And I'm not close to being done with that puzzle, but I got every single one of those puzzle pieces is being set into place. And each one of these characters has contributed many, many puzzle pieces to that puzzle. And I'm very grateful for them. Not only did I write them down, I put uh, stars. I don't mean to rate people, but some people have contributed a great deal to my growth and to my untangling of the wires and into my ideas of where I want to take this and helping me to stay on it, right? Keeping me going, not giving up, that motivation, that inspiration, that create all those ingredients, right? So some people got 1 star, some people just got a check, some people got 2 stars, some people got 3 stars, and there's a 4 star in there, right? Only in the relevance of what I thought they contributed to my being, right? Whether that was the inside or the outside, right? They contributed. And so they get credit for that. So yeah, about 50 of them. And so different. I look at these like I got psychologists here. I got rabbis here. I've got uh, Christian leadership here. I've got spiritual leadership here. I've got I don't know what this person is. Psychology. I guess I'm going to add them into the psychology. I got biologists. I've got historians. I've got life coaches. I got motivational speakers. I got thought leadership out there. I got YouTube creators out there, the people who are experts in YouTube content that, of course, I'm going to need lessons in that, right? And even YouTube, I've right, Creator Insight is a YouTube creator um, uh, channel that helps us to be better YouTube creators, right? Some of them are still alive, some of them are not alive anymore. Like it's really, really, really interesting the the contributions and the different people who have held different puzzle pieces to my life. And like I said, I'll never be done with this, but I'm so grateful to have that one lesson to be doing what I love. I didn't have a goal, right? I said, oh, that'll be fun. Just start putting one foot in another. And I pivoted in that process. I have made slight changes. I have gotten insights on topics that I never even knew existed, but I needed desperately, right? Come to learn that I needed desperately, and I would never be able to do what I want to do without those lessons, without those conversations, without sitting in those classrooms and being a good student, right? I had my goals became clear to me that it was going to change. And the goal that I had truly wasn't the destination, it was just the beginning of that long journey, that long road ahead. And where it leads me, it's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz following the yellow brick road. Did she have any idea where that was going to lead her? She was hoping in the end it was going to get her home. And in the end, it did get her home. But what did she learn? What did she experience? And who did she meet along the way? Who were the ingredients that added to her experience? Right? She had no clue. It was just in the idea of putting one foot in front of another, right? And the lessons came across her path just like they came across my path, and just like they'll come across your path. And we don't have to compare ourselves to anybody, because nobody on this list is like me, and I am not like anybody on this list, but I have pieces of them, right? I have pieces of them, and they may have pieces of me, right? And they are all magnificent in what they do. They are all brainiacs in what they do, and they should never compare themselves to anybody else in the world, because they are unique in the life that they created for themselves, and unique in their give back to what they're putting out in the world. And each one of us gets to make our own decisions in what's relevant to us and what's not, right? And they may contribute a ton, because I have some people here with lots of stars, right? And they contribute lots to me untangling the wires, or to me making a little bit of movement, or to me staying in the game, right? Just staying in the game. And that's the truth. And they all get a little bit of credit for that. They all get a little bit of credit for that, right? And in me being the example to somebody else that it can be done, right? Or not be done, but I'm still in the game. I'm still putting one foot in front of another, right? I'm still not giving it up or giving up. And that's got to be the example for somebody else. That really, really does, right? It's just a matter of deciding, what do you want to do? What do you love doing? What are you good at? That's how I did. What am I good at? Right? So, oh, I know a little bit about that. I thought I knew a lot, but I really just knew. I know a little bit more now. But that's the idea, right? Is just deciding, what do you love? What would you be good at? And start moving in that, knowing that where you are in that moment that you started is not even going to be close to where you ended up. And that's the truth. That's a promise I can tell you is 100% true, right? But if you do it in baby steps, it's easier. And if you understand that you're creating the best life for yourself as you possibly can, you'll find those other things in your life that will bring you joy and smiles, and the people that you are supposed to be surrounding yourself with. Right? Right? Okay, you guys. I didn't know I was going to go there. I'll have to come into my life. I'm sure there's a lesson in that for me. There always is, right? But it is what it is. And now we're going to go into card. Maybe it'll be pertinent to the conversation. Maybe it won't. They're 54 powerful words, right? Powerful words. Each word is important in our lives, right? And each one will represent something a little bit different. That's why every time I pull a card, I may have had that card a dozen times before, but each time I pull that card, there's a good chance that I'm going to come at it in a different perspective, because at any moment, this powerful word can be relevant in our lives or somebody else's life. in a different way. And that's a truth. So I've learned that. I've been working with these cards now, I think for 2 years now. I've been working with these cards. And then it took me a year to get the cards done, right? Because I had to work every week. I started a new card, but every day in that week I had to work with that one word in different perspectives, and it took me a long time, and I'm still learning, and I'm still working with these cards, and yeah, and it helps me lots, right? Even after my live shows, I pull a card for myself, right, just to see what is relevant in the moment for myself. And it never fails me that there's a little lesson in it. Okay, you guys, let's pull a card. We'll take this last one here. Here we go. Well, this is a good card. Now, is this relevant to our conversation? I'm not sure. Grace swoops in to make the impossible possible, right? The grace is in the never giving up. For myself, that was the grace for me, and never giving up, right? Because I didn't know how impossible it could have been for me, right? If I had known, like I said, if I had known how long it would have taken me to untangle all those words, if I had known where I would be when it concerns my brand, right? That that if I didn't understand that I was creating the best life for myself as I possibly can, and that was a saving grace for myself too, because I could have worked myself to the bone and in the end been resentful, right? Because I didn't create something magnificent, that I didn't manifest my dream. But my dream is in creating the best human being that I possibly could be. And I didn't know, right? I was just putting one foot in front of another. I was thinking of putting the roof over my head. That's what I was thinking about, right? He says, I can't explore abandoned farms and abandoned houses when I'm 80 years old, right? I'm in a wheelchair or a walker. I can't be walking through farm fields. What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to put a roof over my head, right? He says, oh, right? I can work in emotions. I can. I can explore the inside and the outside. That's what I thought. And it just kept moving. It was just one foot in front of another. And that's the grace of it. Because if I had known back then the process, the sad moments, the hairy, scary of it all, the, what's that? Thinking, the impossibility, because that's the idea. I would have thought it was so impossible because I could see out there the experts in their fields. How could I think that I could possibly be one of them? Right? And there were moments that I thought that, like, what are you doing, Cindy? Right? But because I did things in baby steps, because I was creating the best life for myself as I possibly could, that in that process, I learned to treat myself well, that I made sure that I was creating beautiful moments in my life while I was applying myself in the difficulties and in the hairy, scary, and the crazy town and the heartbreaks, because there are heartbreaks in that, right? Because then we get to recognize how truly different we are. Each one of us is unique, and not all of us get to realize that. And that's the grace of it, right? Because it swooped in and it made the impossible possible, right? Because it wasn't even a thought. in my mind. It wasn't even a thought in my mind, but because I never gave up, because I put one foot in front of another, that it's possible now, right? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but somewhere's down the line. But in that process, I'm enjoying my life. My brand is still here. I'm celebrating my 12th year anniversary as being a YouTube creator, right? And that would have been an impossibility. That was grace itself, right? That was grace itself because, like I said, I couldn't explore abandoned houses and abandoned schoolhouses and right for the rest of my life. I just would not have been physically, it wouldn't have been safe for me as a little old lady, right? But I'm exploring the inside and the outside. I'm still expanding. I still adapted and conquered, and I am right. I do my provincial park tours now. I am looking at RVs. Like who would have thought? RVs never crossed my mind 10 years ago. I never even thought it was a possibility, right? And it still might not be a possibility, but I have that optimism. I have a lot of tools around my belt that if I want to create that, I know that I can create that. I can make that happen, right? And that's grace because I didn't know that 10 years ago. That would have seemed like an impossibility. That would have seemed like crazy town, right? And it's not. It really, really isn't. And that's the idea that I just keep doing those baby steps. I just keep putting one foot in front of another, that I can be the example for myself. And in being that example for myself, I may be the example for somebody else, right? Grace swoops in to make the impossible possible, right? That's the fun of it, you guys. Oh my goodness. I am creating a life. I truly am. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. And we'll see you tomorrow.